Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about SUI, and more specifically the SUI ecosystem, because in my opinion, I think we're probably at the point in the cycle where I don't think we'll probably see SUI do another 10, 20, 30x from here. The days of that being a possibility I think are gone. I do think it's possible that maybe we still see SUI do potentially maybe like a 2 to 5x, maybe 10x, I mean if things get really ridiculous and out of hand. But overall, I think probably 2 to 5x, in my opinion, seems to be a little bit more within the realm of reason. Even 5x I think is probably a point at which things are getting maybe a little bit unreasonable. But the most important thing, at least in my opinion, is if you still are wanting to make millions on SUI, buying the actual SUI token itself is probably not the way to do that. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that today, go into a little bit more detail on what potentially you could do and how you could position yourself to still make a lot of money off of SUI, not maybe necessarily the SUI coin directly, right? So anyway, let's go ahead, dive right in, and we'll check that out. Starting out, what we can see is looking at crypto bubbles, really strong day in the market overall. We are seeing a couple, red bubbles here and there, but overall we're seeing mostly green bubbles and a decent bit of like pretty green bubbles at that. Obviously helium up, a decent bit, doing quite well. SUI up, doing really quite well. Phantom, another one that's done really well. XMR, it's blocked by my picture, but that, XMR doing really quite well. Ondo up a lot. Virtual's up a decent bit. So a lot of decent moves up in the market. Obviously, we can see Bitcoin up 2.5%. We did see Bitcoin hit new all-time highs, so that's obviously pretty good news for the overall crypto ecosystem. I do think probably till the end of the year, now that we have continued to move to the upside, it would be my expectation that we probably see Bitcoin continue to find new highs through the end of the year. Again, we never know for certain, but that's probably that's kind of my expectation, at least at this point. But moving on, focusing on SUI specifically, the reason why I want to talk about SUI is because, like we've seen over the past year, we've seen SUI go up 673%, and it's actually gone up even more than this from like bottom to top, right? Because I think we've seen prices actually get even lower than 61 cents. So I mean, bottom to top, probably over 700%, maybe even close to 800%, 9x for those of you keeping score at home. This is obviously it's done very, very well this year. Even recently, we've seen it do really well. We'll take a look at the chart in a second, but market cap at just shy of $14 billion. So it's a pretty sizable project at this point. It is the 15th ranked crypto in terms of total market cap. So definitely not a small coin anymore. It's definitely a much larger coin when we are comparing it kind of to the overall crypto market. And so looking at the chart, what we can see, really, really strong, continuing to hold the uptrend. We're finding a little bit of resistance here at this kind of $5 mark. Again, I think this makes sense. Obviously, even numbers in 5s and 10s are usually the ones that kind of cause problems. So $5 is obviously going to be a pretty decent bit of a psychological barrier. And then we also probably are going to see, if we do get to the point of $10 will probably be another pretty strong point of resistance. What we can see on the RSI is things continuing to stay in the very, very strong range, but not necessarily creeping too much into the overbought. Obviously, we saw a decent bit of this towards the middle of November, a tiny bit here on earlier in December, but overall, I would say things looking pretty good from an RSI perspective. I do think we are looking good enough that we'll probably continue to see a move to the upside. When, how much, any of that type of stuff, your guess is as good as mine. But I do think we are continuing to see that uptrend staying pretty strong and holding. So I'm not really super concerned there. If you are interested in finding a new place to trade, I am partnered with BTCC for the month. Again, they are still doing the 10% bonus on first time deposits, which in my opinion is a fantastic deal. If you are looking for a new place to trade anyway, you might as well get an extra 10% on your money, if you ask me. This is in addition to the up to $10,055 of bonuses that you can get for being a new user. Really good deal here. We can see they've been around for 13 years. So obviously, I mean, not like a pop-up exchange is going to be here one day, gone the next. They've been around for quite a bit of time. 300 plus crypto futures and up to 500x leverage. Again, I would very, very strongly discourage 500x leverage, but if you have some strategy that I'm not aware of and it works for you, great, but I highly doubt that. So anyway, the other thing, no VPN or KYC necessary if that is something that you're also interested in. Overall, pretty great site. If you are interested, like I said, check the link in my description below and go on ahead and get signed up. Now, moving on, I want to take a quick look at essentially the topic of today's video, right? And it's how can you make millions on SUI without even buying SUI? A bit of an interesting question, right? And my opinion here is looking at the SUI ecosystem. So what we have been able to see is we're creeping up on $2 billion of TVL. So obviously we've seen a really, really strong growth in TVL. Things looking good here. Stablecoins not really growing as much as I would have liked to have seen. In my opinion, stablecoin market cap is kind of a somewhat indirect way for taking a rough gauge of how much interesting stuff is on an ecosystem, because generally if people are wanting to like do stuff on an ecosystem and they're not actually wanting to use the base coin itself, which in this case would be SUI, they probably are holding some sort of stable coin as a way to like hold their cash but maybe not be like subjected to the whims and the volatilities of the crypto market. We have not seen too much of a move up here, which in my opinion is not necessarily the best sign, but TVL has moved up pretty strongly, which is decent. But again, we have to keep in mind that some of this TVL on their chain is going to be very likely people staking their SUI coins. And if SUI is appreciating, this can kind of just happen because of that, not because of basically anything else good that's happening within the ecosystem. So that is something to keep an eye out on, just to keep in the back of your mind. I'm not saying that it's like a bad thing or anything. It's just something to keep in mind. Now, stablecoins is kind of the other thing we want to watch to see if this is also moving up, because if both are moving up, then I think we can feel pretty comfortable that there's a lot of interesting things going on within the SUI ecosystem. So far, we're not seeing that quite yet, but that's not to say that it's not going to get there, right? Because usually what happens within these crypto cycles, if we think from like high level to low level, things start with everybody, Bitcoin goes up, everybody buys Bitcoin, all that type of stuff. Then we get to the point where like, okay, Bitcoin's kind of topped out, it's seen its highs, now what's next? And that's usually when Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain and Cardano and XRP and all these others start to move up. And then from there, once those move up, then we start to see kind of like the third wave, which is like much smaller layer ones. Maybe it's apps within the larger chains, things like that. And then we get to the very end where we're focused on, NFTs, meme coins, Ponzi's, any just kind of ridiculous thing that we can do to end up making money. And that's typically how it's gone in the past. Now, there's no guarantee that that's how it's going to go in the future. But if we are to subscribe to this mentality, because we have seen it happen multiple times in the past, we need to start looking, okay, well, what's next, right? Because if SUI has already done a 9x or so this year, or close to, and things are looking really, really good, then there's going to be a point where people are like, oh, okay, SUI's at a $14 billion market cap. What's next? And this is exactly what I want to talk about. So looking at CoinGecko, we can see all of the things that are listed within like the SUI ecosystem. And we can see the top SUI ecosystem tokens. Obviously we have USDC. Not all of USDC is sitting within SUI. This is just one of them. We have SUI itself, of course, and then we have another stablecoin from what it appears. Again, another stablecoin after that. Then we go down here to CETUS protocol, and this is one of like the major apps within the SUI chain. We can see still only sitting at a $278 million market cap, relatively small, I would say, for a chain that's done so well. Then from there we have DEEPBOOK. After that we have LOFI. This is a meme coin that we've seen a lot about, being marketed and stuff like that recently. So it makes sense to see that it's moved up so quickly and so strongly. We also can see SUIland, going all the way down the list here. So in my opinion, if we are going to be looking to make outsized gains within the SUI ecosystem without actually buying SUI itself directly, because like I said, we maybe see 5x in my opinion maximum, probably not too much more than that. That means once we start to get to this like wealth effect, right, people are going to start looking for what's next. This is part of why we've seen LOFI run, at least in my opinion, is people are looking for, okay, well, what's going to be the next thing within SUI? Oh, here's a meme coin. Meme coins are huge on Solana. What if SUI replaces Solana? This could be like the whiff or the whatever, right? That's, in my opinion, why LOFI has done so well. We do have a couple other like actual practical applications in here that aren't just like meme coins. Those are, I would say, at relatively small market caps if we start to see something like a Solana effect type take place. If it doesn't happen though, then that's where the risk comes in, right? Because what we are essentially banking on here is we need SUI to continue to do well, which at this point I'd feel very, very confident in. But again, we never know for sure. And then after that, you're taking a secondary level of risk, which is now you're trying to pick a specific winner. Let's say we go and buy DEEPBOOK. To clarify, I don't actually own any DEEPBOOK, but let's just say we go and buy DEEPBOOK, and then for whatever reason, they've got a smart contract weakness, or they get rugged or something like that. Well, I could essentially lose on DEEPBOOK when, let's just say, everything else wins, right? Very unlikely that will actually happen, but that could happen where it's like, well, CETUS is the winner and DEEPBOOK is the loser, where if you were to just buy in SUI overall, yes, you would only be making 2, 3, 4, 5x maybe potentially, but you're not going to be losing 100% of your money because DeepBook got rugged or something like that. Again, I'm just using DeepBook as an example. This is not me having a position for or against investing in DeepBook. This is just using them as purely an example. But that's kind of like the secondary layer of risk that you can see. And obviously, the further down you go, the higher the risk becomes. Here we have, FUD the Pug at 20 million in market cap. And this is something that, yeah, I mean, maybe it goes up to and does LOFI type numbers, but then maybe it doesn't also at the same time, right? I mean, we can see there's a lot of different meme coins showing up on here. And so this is where I think we're going to see, this is where you can make a ton, but it's also where you can lose a ton because it's very, very risky. So anyway, that's what I want to talk to you about today. Just kind of go over the SUI ecosystem, what that's looking like, where there are some potential ways where you could actually maybe do a little bit better than just buying SUI specifically. But like I said, it's like a much higher level of risk when you are trying to get into it, because now you're trying to pick specific winners and losers when you're already kind of picking a specific winner in that betting SUI, the ecosystem is going to do well. So now you need SUI to win, but you also need whichever specific coin or coins that you picked within the ecosystem to also win as well. But that is why usually the outsized gains are there. I'm sure if SUI does particularly well this bull run like it has continued to, we will probably see several projects in here do very, very well, and people will make a staggering amount of money off them. But again, for each winner, there's probably going to be 30, 40, 50, 60 losers. So you just have to bear that in mind as well if this is something you're wanting to look a little bit further into. So you really, really do have to do your own research. Make sure you understand why you're buying it, why you would hold it, how it wins, how it loses, all that type of stuff. If you have any more questions on some of those higher level type things, I have made a couple of videos recently kind of talking about some of that type of stuff, some of the basics and beginning kind of first principles of investing, stuff like that. So if you are interested, just feel free to go look for those on my channel. Hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and subscribe because it really does help me out. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, just feel free to drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything that you want me to see, that'd be a really good way to do so. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.